Now we're going to make our ladybug both deadly and useful. I want to make it so that our player can bounce on the top of the ladybug to get to different places, but also make it so that there's some danger if they touch the ladybug from the front or the back. The easiest way to add in some damage would be to just add our spike script that we've already created that damages anything that touches that component. So let's go add a spike script right now. Let's go double check what that spike script does so we can remember. And just look here that we look for a non-collision enter. And if we hit a player, then we tell that player to take damage and we give it the normal so that it can bounce back. So let's go back into Unity now. Now if we play and try this out, we should expect to see that the ladybug doesn't actually run up and touch us because it's doing that raycast, it's finding us and turning itself around. Now I can still land on it and take damage, which is not what I want to happen yet. And I can kind of run up behind it and take damage. So it is dealing damage, but it's not dealing damage by walking into me. So I want to modify the ladybug script just a little bit so that it will ignore my player when it's determining if it should turn around. To do that, we'll stop playing and open up the ladybug script. And then in the part where we check to see if we've found anything in front of us, which is down here, we want to do an extra check to see if the thing is on the player's layer or if the thing is a player. We have multiple ways to do that. First though, I want to reorganize this code just a little bit. Let's take the code for can continue walking, the part that's checking the ground in front of us to see if the ground exists in front of us, and let's just select all of that and move it out into its own method. So I'm going to take everything from 55 down to 69, which is from the part where we initially get our can continue walking, our two downward variables or vectors, or this is a vector, and that's our raycast hit array. So we've got our down origin and our down hits, our loop, and then our check here. So let's take all of that and hit Alt Enter, and oh, looks like extract method's not popping up. So what I'll do instead is hit Control X, and then we'll write the name of a method, and I'm thinking that we'll call this check ground in front. We'll add the semicolon in the two parentheses, then I'll hit Alt Enter and generate the method. Inside of that method, I'll paste over this throw exception all of my code. This should work exactly the same, but now my update method is a little bit easier to understand. I can see that in update, I get some vectors, then I check the ground, and then I do some stuff with those vectors. So next I want to rearrange this a little bit. Let's move the check ground in front up. So I hit Control X and move it to the beginning of my update because these two variables aren't used by that and they're not used until we get down to this code that's checking for things that are in front of me. Next, I'll get rid of these extra spaces and I'm going to take this code that checks for things in front of me and let's extract that out as well. So I'll select it all, see if Alt Enter pops up. There we go. The extract method option is now available. I'll hit Enter there and we'll call this check in, oh, do I want to call this check in front? Yeah, let's call it check in front. And then I think we're good. I like that. So I've liked this little refactor where both of our methods exist and the code is a little bit easier for me to understand. And now in my check in front, I have to decide how I want to determine if the thing is a player. I've got, again, two options. I could check right here to see if the player has or if the collider has a player component on it, and if so, just not do this code. Or I could add a layer mask here so that I can ignore specific layers and make it just continue walking into those layers. I'm kind of torn on it because really it's about the same either way, but performance-wise, it's a little bit better for me to do the layer mask check. So that's what we'll go with. And to do that, we're going to add a new parameter to our raycast all. So when we do our physics 2D raycast all in that forward direction, our fourth parameter will be let's call this forward raycast layer mask. So we'll have a forward raycast layer mask and we'll hit Alt Enter and then we're going to generate a field for it. I'll hit F12 and it's going to give me the wrong type. It always does this when you generate a layer mask. Instead of giving a layer mask, it gives an int, but we can just replace this with layer mask and then replace the private keyword with the serialized field attribute. Now I'm going to move this up. So I'll select the whole line, hit Control X or Shift Delete, and then move it right up here below my raycast distance. I'll save that off. let's go back into Unity. Well, first, let's do a build. Control-Shift-B and make sure that the build works. Oh, it looks like, oh, weird. Somehow I got an extra weird using statement up here. I'm going to go hit Shift-Delete, and I'm going to hit Shift-Delete on all these extra using statements that I've got up there too. I'm not sure what added that. Something in Visual Studio must have gotten confused. We'll do another build, make sure that it succeeds. There are no errors, no missing braces or anything. And then we'll jump back into Unity, and let's go check out our Ladybug script. We should now have that layer mask, and if I press play, it's going to do something a little bit strange. Let's watch. So there goes my ladybug, and it's walking. And when it gets to that brick, it's just going to keep going and keep trying to push the brick and not stop. So we're going to change the layer mask to be everything. That'll make it turn around, and that'll also make it, of course, turn around when it gets to the player. And then if I change that layer mask to not have the player on it, bam, bam, look at that. The player's starting to take some damage. All right, that is closer to what I was looking for. Let's let our player die. We'll stop playing. I'm going to go back to that ladybug. I'm going to adjust that layer mask while we're not playing. Unset the player so that it's mixed with everything except for the player. And then I'm going to go to the overrides and apply all so that our changes get applied. Next, we'll go into plastic and say that our ladybug turns around with the forward raycast layer mask and deals damage to players. Our ladybug deals damage to players is probably enough. And I'll check that in. Oh, I haven't checked and saved my scene. So we'll save our scene and we'll make one more check-in. Say, added sandbox scene from previous commit. And we'll check that in as well.